Good morning, everyone. I'm Polly. Good morning, everyone. I'm Polly.
Jumped the gun there.
This is Patty. Hi, Patty.
Morning, Polly. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Staying dry.
Yeah.
Trying at least.
If you're in Sydney, I hope you have an umbrella with you because the weather is pretty crazy today.
Very, very wet.
Which is kind of nice. It's nice to stay inside, though.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's good. We haven't had much rain over the last few months, so good to have a bit more.
Feels good.
Yeah. So what's this morning's webinar about, Paul?
This morning session is all about priorities. So we will spend most of our sessions, actually all our sessions, on priorities. We've made a few updates recently, and we think it's a great idea to show some tips and tricks on how you could be managing projects from priorities instead of leaving and navigating from this area. You could actually save a lot of time just working from priorities.
Yeah, priorities is an area in Streamtime that's very flexible. There are lots of different ways you can use it, and we've opened up a few more avenues in terms of how that can be used with some recent updates. And so we're keen to kind of show you guys how those updates can be used to take more advantage of priorities and use it to have a more project management angle within priorities as opposed to just looking at the entire business. You can get a bit closer to where a project is at and work through it a bit. So so that's what we're keen to show you today.
Yeah, so we will be showing you how you could be managing your tasks, tracking time, and monitor the project's progress from one priority board. So we will use one board as an example today.
And this session is probably going to be best for project managers, business owners, I suppose, but people that are constantly needing to know where a project is at, its status, and be able to quickly allocate tasks and resources to work if needed. So it's going to be a bit of a control center for the project. Yeah,
and essentially we just want to show you that priority boards are useful for anyone in your team who has access to jobs. So whether you are a business owner or project manager or designer, you could create your own boards the way you work. So they will be useful for you, so you don't have to navigate from around the tool, from inside the tool. Sorry.
Totally.
Housekeeping. I'll go today. Yeah, that's my usual task. So feel free to say hi and introduce yourself, guys, in the chat there. Don't be shy. Maybe if you could tell us where you work, what's your role, and maybe you could tell us a bit about how you're using priorities right now. It would be useful for us to know. Any questions that you've got, just send them through as you go. We will cover them at the end of the session. As Patty said, it's a very focused session today. So hopefully we will have some time for good questions at the end.
I think we'll have at least 5 or 10 minutes at the end to be able to go through any of those questions. So this is a good opportunity if there's anything you're unsure about to write it down, drop it into the chat window in Livestorm there where you're watching the webinar, or write it down and bring it up at the end. But it'll be a focus session. So we're going to dive deep into one particular project set up in a priorities board, and you guys will be able to see how we've got that set up. And what that means is you can kind of go and use that as a template to go and set up some bigger projects like this as well.
Yeah. And we always want to hear your feedback on the priorities. So it would be good to know how you're currently using that area of Streamtime, whether you are using it or just starting to use it, and any ideas that you've got around priorities are super useful for us.
Totally. So I've just pulled up the job here, the project board that we're looking at.
Awesome.
And just so everyone is aware of where exactly we're in Streamtime we are, we're in priorities in our menu, and I've created a board here. I've already set this one up. I can see there's a whole bunch of boards in the studio, but this particular one is the Bank Australia video campaign. So this is a board that we use all the time, and it's probably worth saying that because we have got these columns all kind of set up for the project, you could even set up a template board if you wanted, and then just populate it with each different job's information. So you could set up a board with these columns, and then from here, you could be able to actually duplicate that board so that you've got the template, the bones of that board ready, just needing to kind of fill it in with all of the job information and the item cards related to a particular job or project.
Yeah, and if you're working from on this board as a team, you could also see who has modified this board last. So if you just look click back, Patty, you could see that who's modified that Bank Australia video board, and it's been modified by me today. So that's really useful as part of the new updates that we've just released. So it's just good to know who's been working on it, whose board is it, and who's created it, I guess.
Exactly. Now, with this project, this example, this is going to be a bit of a larger job, a larger campaign, and it's up to you how you want to use priorities and whether it's worth kind of setting up a board like this for smaller jobs. Depends on the type of projects that come through your studio. But this one's going to be lasting a bit over a month. There's quite a bit of time that we'll need to be working on it. And it's for a big client. So we just want to make sure that we're across everything and we have this as one place of truth, I guess.
Exactly.
Now, as you can see, we've got the name of the board here, which is the name of the job. And then I've got a whole number of columns across the top here. So I'll just run through what these are quickly, and then I'll kind of dive into each column and we can take a look at exactly what's happening in each one. So we've got project resources, a next meeting agenda, and then to do, in progress, on hold, blocked, and done. So this last set of columns is really relating to the work that actually needs to happen, any tasks, and you can see that we've got these item cards sitting in here, and these are just all of the items that sit on the job. So when I set this up, I actually did have the job open in another window, in another tab, to make sure that I could just see all the items that I needed to add in and just dropped them in to make sure I wasn't missing anything. Now, once they're all in, they're all in, so we don't need to worry about going back and looking again. But yeah, so these items are showing us the work that actually needs to happen on the job and the different stages they might be at.
Exactly. And those columns are completely customizable as well. So you could change the names of those columns based on the way you currently work. So you don't actually have to follow the same structure. We just find this one useful, and it relates to that project that we're working on. So that's all we need to see. However, you could rename the columns the way you want. You can move them around as well. So you could set it up.
That's a big one.
Yeah, that's huge. You could set it up in advance, as we mentioned at the beginning, whether it's a priority template board or an actual board. You don't have to follow the same structure as we've just done, but it should give you an idea of how you could be using it anyway.
Exactly. So maybe let's go over to the left and start within project resources, and we can talk through what's happening here.
Sounds good.
So this first card that we've got here, I've added in the job as a job card. So if you click add card, you'll see the different types of cards that we can add in here. And that first one at the top is a job card. Now, what that's useful for showing me is really high level information about the job. And this is just sitting in this column so that I can kind of refer to it at any point in time.
Exactly.
I can see the labels on this job. So that's helping me identify quickly anything about this project. I know Paulina is the account manager running this project. I know that it's a video job. Obviously, it's a video campaign, but we use labels to kind of report on that too. And these are a VIP client, Bank Australia. So I've added a VIP label in here too.
Nice one.
I've also got my team members showing here. So if you come up to the top right here, you can choose the options of what you see and don't see on cards. And I can see I've decided to indicate my team on just this job card so that I can see who's working on this project. And if I need to ask any questions, I can easily go to those people.
Exactly. So essentially, the project resources column is everything you need to know about the project. So we've just added a job card to get an idea of what this job is about, but also what we've done, we've added a notes card as well. So if you click on those
This one?
if you wanted to add a new card, you could click on the add card and then add a note card. So this allows you to add any notes that relate to that project. So in our case, it's actually a little brief, a little blurb about this project, what this project's about, and our message, what we want to deliver, what we want to achieve with that video. You could also add another note card or keep it all in one and add a link to Dropbox files. So all of your assets for this campaign will be living somewhere in Dropbox, or it's a G Drive. So you could actually add a clickable link there so your team who's working on this job know this is where the information is.
Exactly. Those note cards are really useful and quite versatile in terms of how they can be used. So they can be anything. Like you said, we've got a summary here, a clickable link to all of our files relating to the job here, so that there's one place people can come to get those if they need them or find them. And also, as we'll see in the next column here, we actually do have the ability to add a checklist to these note cards too, which is really useful for this next column, which we've got as our next meeting agenda. So we know we've got a client research review coming up soon. We want to just be able to jot down all of the things that we plan to deliver in that meeting and make sure that we can kind of work through them and we're prepared. So again, I can just create a note card, call it whatever I want, and then add in these checklists just with the checklist items here.
Exactly.
So useful for just staying on top of things.
And whoever, if you're working from this project, from this priority board as a team, so your team members can go and mark it as complete from here. So you know what's been done, what hasn't been done.
Exactly. Now, working through this next column, we've got to do here. Now, pretty much what this is the backlog of items that we do need to work on throughout the project. Now, I have set this up in a particular way. On this job, we have phases. So it's a video job. So we've got a discovery phase, then we have a pre-production phase, then we have a production phase, and then finally post-production. And so I've actually used a note here to kind of separate my items in this to-do backlog into the phases. So I've worked through the job and by phase, I've used a note to separate it. So this is my production group of items here. And I can actually see that in here, I've included my shoot requirements as a checklist on this note card so that I know when we come to the production phase, here is a list of things that we need to do, like a list of requirements that we need to work through. For example, for this shoot, which is going to happen in a few weeks' time, we need to make sure we've organized the catering for the cast. We need to make sure we've got umbrellas in case it's raining. It's an outdoor shoot. And
if it's in Sydney, it's probably a good idea to add an umbrella.
You might want rain jackets as well, yeah. And we need to make sure we book that hair and makeup artist. So useful to just have here as well. Now I can see this is the production item where we've got 50 hours of work that's planned to be worked during those time or during those dates. And then beneath that, I've got my post-production, so audio mix and editing, which will happen after that.
Yep. For sure. And you could even see that there's no time has been tracked on the to-do section of this job. How we see that is by adding a column total there on the bottom. What we want to see is how much time has been tracked and how much time has been planned. So at a glance, we could see that we've planned 71 hours for this specific section by adding those items in there. So we added those column totals in order for you to get an idea, to see at a glance on how your projects are going. So it can be different totals too, but the time that's been used versus planned, it works really well in this case because we just want to see what has happened so far.
Totally. And this is really useful as well for giving you a bit of insight in terms of how much time is left in this project, how much time is remaining that we haven't touched yet. It allows you to kind of see a breakdown of where you're at. And as you'll see across these columns, in progress these are items that are currently in play in the studio, things that our team members are actively working on. Because we do have these use those planned hours showing in here, and I can see that there's some time tracks, we're able to see as a bucket of the work in progress at the moment, how far are we from kind of working through this current phase or these items in the job. And I can see we're about 2/3 of the way through there, 14 out of 22 hours, which is cool.
Exactly. Just jumping back into the to-do column, Patty, if that's okay. We make it very easy for you to track time from the priority boards as well. So today you're going to be looking at what you need to do and you want to track a couple of hours in this production item. So in order to do that, you could actually flip that item by clicking on those 3 dots and add a to-do for yourself. So you could log time straight from here, or you could add a to-do for someone else in your team and add a little note there to remind Danielle perhaps to contact the client and confirm the date of the shooting perhaps.
Cool.
This way you could track time from priorities without leaving that. That's great.
Exactly. So I can set that 20-minute task there for Danielle if I want. I can also select the day that I want this to appear on Danielle's to-do list. If it's something I want to remind her to do next week, I can do that. But as you said, Polly, if I was Danielle or if I was myself here, I could actually create and log a task instantly from priorities. So to get that time entry in, I don't need to leave here, which is really cool. So I can create and log that and know that we're actually getting that time in against that production. As we can see, it's been tracked there.
Nice one.
So moving through, we have got things that are currently in progress, which is cool. On hold, again, I can see maybe these are things that we just need sign off on, or things that can't go ahead yet because we're waiting on someone. Things that are blocked, we've got our scouting, location scouting here, and I can see how much remaining time is in here too. So that's also important to know. Maybe we need to kind of have something done by next week, but I know that we're going to need at least 4 hours work before next week to be able to do that. So it's good to have in the back of your mind as well with those remaining hours. And in this final column, we've got done. So these are the completed kind of items on the job, everything where the time has been, tracked, and we've delivered it essentially. This is useful just to see how much time has actually been used on the project so far and how much was planned. And at a really high level, I guess you're getting where are you currently sitting with regard to the project budget based on those hours that you'd kind of planned for yourself. And I can see currently, based on the time that everything that we've finished, we're about 2 hours under budget.
Yeah, so this essentially should be your favorite column. When you're tracking time, you completed a part of the task, you can move it into done. So you've got less to do, obviously, and you, as Patty said, you could gauge how much time you've spent on the project so far.
I was going to say, let's just say that concept development, we just wrap it up.
Nice.
We can move that to done, and you'll see that this total down the bottom here updates instantly. It's pulling that total from the additional card.
And perfect. And if you scroll a bit left, Patty, you could see at the video campaign job that the job card that we've added at the beginning, everything got updated as well. So you could take a look at your progress, your team progress on the job, and perhaps you want to take further actions from there as well. So you could flip that card to maybe you want to add an expense, maybe you want to create a new invoice, an invoice for the first 50% of the actually for work that has been done. You could do that from priorities, and actually you don't have to leave the screen. That's what it makes it so good.
Totally.
So cool.
Yeah, totally. And if at any time you do need to jump into the job and open up the job plan and take a more thorough look at where things are or move things around, then you can easily access the job by clicking on the job name. Just by clicking on the job title there, it'll open up the project, and you'll be able to come in here and see how everything is set out. You can check your projected and planned profit margins here. You can see a summary of any invoiced amounts and quotes. And of course, you can come across to the timeline, look at these milestones and planned invoices out here across the top of the screen
and
too.
Change the dates if you need to.
Exactly, yeah. So knowing that is all just a click away as well makes it that much easier and nicer to work with as well.
For sure.
Cool.
That's pretty much it for this morning session. I think we've given ourselves a bit of time to answer some of the questions that you guys have, and I think it will be good and useful for you guys to take it on board and perhaps try to recreate that way of working. Or you don't have to recreate the whole board, but you get an idea of how you could be working as a team. So we really hope it was useful for you. Well, it's useful for us.
Yeah. There is a question here from Bramley as well. They've asked if there is a place in jobs, apart from the additional information, to add a brief like the notes card here in priorities as we showed you. There's no place that is really able to cater for a brief like that at the moment, other than the additional information or an item card, which you can use to just be an info card. That said, it is certainly something that is on our roadmap, and it's pretty high up there as well. It's something that the team has been doing lots of work into, and I can't really say more than that, but it's on the near horizon. So you'll be pleased to hear that, I hope. And if you are interested, I'll drop the link for our roadmap into this chat so that you can go there and follow the story and get updates on it as well. Yeah.
And you, instead of typing that note by creating a new note card in the priority boards, you could actually add an item, notes item within the job and pull that item across to this priority board by creating a new item card. So as Patty said, we are working on it, but that's probably your best solution here for now.
So the roadmap is there, and if you head there, you'll be able to see that and follow those stories too.
Any more questions there, Patty?
Matt North has just asked a question. So is it possible for priorities to be an individual access item for our team members? So that is a good question, and something we are interested in working on and implementing at some point. I can't really promise on when that's going to be or how soon, but ensuring that there's more granular access around priorities is definitely something we're interested in, Matt. So it's something we're aware of and somewhere we'd love to go.
That's a good idea. So we'll take it on board. Currently, whoever has access to jobs has access to priorities, but there's no further restrictions in the priorities itself. Exactly.
We have got a few more minutes for any final questions, if there are any. Thanks, Bramley and Matt, for your questions so far.
Oh, nice. Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
Oh, nice one.
There's more questions pouring in. Where did you say we could add notes in the job section?
You could add it as a separate item. So it's not an actual task. It's not a deliverable. It's an actual item, notes item. So you could put it in pause so no one actually sees it on their to-do screens. But essentially, this item just shows everything that you need to know within the job, and you could use additional information within that item to add your copy and paste your brief, any other notes and conversations with your client.
Exactly. So you could use this additional information field here. Here are the notes for the project. And
it's a free text field. So.
Yeah, exactly. And that will just sit at the top there. So it's a little hack, I suppose, which is nice. Cool.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, if there are no more questions for today, then there's one other one.
Lucy. I know Lucy. Hey, is there any way to automatically add a new job to priorities board when it's created?
There's no way to automatically do this, Lucy, other than create the job from priorities.
Yeah.
So
good question, though.
Great question. So I'll go to another board. Maybe a studio WIT board will be a bit better. Let's say we've got an incoming job here, Lucy. Why not start the job creation process from priorities? So we've got an incoming job. I'm going to add a job card here. And then maybe this is Lucy's job. I can create it directly into priorities here so that we can get going and have it here already and then jump into the job to plan it out.
Yep.
Cool.
Any more questions, guys? Okay, that makes
Great
sense.
to hear.
Awesome.
Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. Hopefully you all learnt something there, a new way to kind of work in priorities. Really glad to hear that lots of you are using it and excited about it. If you have any follow-up questions, just get in touch with us through Streamtime.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Patty.
Thanks, Paul.